Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hotline League. Sorry we're a little delayed. XSplit decided to just completely remove all of the work that I had done to build scenes and everything for many months, years even. And so I had to try to rebuild all of that during this, which was
Travis said it's the off-season, fuck this shit, and went out and was
actually not accurate.
some shots
Only one of us tried
before.
to cancel today's show, and it was not
I didn't
me.
try to cancel today's show. I tried to improve it,
an
and
ultimatum.
you pushed back.
Here's my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman, who today gave me an ultimatum, which was no show.
I gave you a very heavy-handed suggestion to make this show better.
Very heavy-handed. Very. Anyway, I'll let Mark explain what that is in just a second. But first off, the show is brought to you by Alienware and Grubhub. Thank you to Alienware and Grubhub. We will talk about them later on in the show. As always, they're fantastic sponsors. Mark, how's your week been?
It's been good. None of the podcast people will know this, but I just spent the last 25 minutes breaking down basically everything I've consumed, from video games to movies, TV shows, podcasts.
Are you basically just big chilling right now? Like, there's not like you. Are you just doing TGI work and that's about it?
No, I'm doing my usual getting deep into side projects that are never going to see the light of day.
Okay.
I'll show you one tomorrow.
But you don't have like esports work.
No, esports work is dead. Okay. Esports is dead as a whole.
And you haven't tweeted out yet in the past 25 minutes. So I was going to retweet.
When's the last time I tweeted out at all?
Last week, I think. Pretty sure you tweeted out last week. Yeah,
December
you did.
2nd.
November 28th is the last time that you tweeted out that we were doing
no. I was talking about...
you just mean you aren't tweeting in general.
Yeah, I haven't tweeted in 3 days, which is pretty slow for me. Usually I'm a couple tweets a day kind of guy.
Yeah, that's how checked out you are right now, is what I'm realizing. Okay.
I don't know if I'll ever check back in either. I might just stay checked out.
The new season's going to roll around. You're going to be like, oh, yeah, there's a thing. It's starting.
I'm still doing the blame game in Hotline League, but I'm not checked in.
Yeah. I had an idea last night. This is going to be a much more loose episode than normal, folks, in a lot of different ways, but we can just kind of shoot the shit more because there's literally nothing happening. But I had a dream. So last night I was really struggling to sleep, and I woke up at I don't even know if I had fallen asleep yet, but whatever. Around 4 a.m., I was thinking about how I need to create a gift guide, because everybody creates gift guides on their YouTube channels. But how do you create an esports gift guide? And I think I'm going to try to create a parody gift guide for if here's the TSM fan in your life, you should get them this, and here's the C9 fan in your life, you should get them this. The part of the challenge, as I was racking my brain with this when I should have been sleeping, was some of the teams have so little identity that there's not even a joke you can make about them, where you're just what do you get? It's there's nothing.
For the Immortals fan, get them progressive health insurance.
There's just it's just a incredibly smooth wall. There's nothing to grab onto. You can't do anything. And so I don't know how we got on this topic. How did we get on this topic again?
Just talking about how fucking bored we are.
Oh, yes. It is such a struggle. Today in the news, Evil Geniuses announced their 2022 roster with a JPEG that apparently took them multiple weeks to generate, because they had already announced the 2 changes they were making, and then it's somebody over there remembered that they still hadn't announced the full roster, so it's
probably pending riot approval, and now here's the official tweet. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe an intern got bored and just made a graphic and tweeted it out. You never know.
There was a bunch of nothing that came out of this rumor that Danny was in prison, a contract prison, which was not accurate based off of the stuff that I had heard. That was 12 hours of drama, which is always very funny, because you go into that was a situation where there was a tweet that Cadril read on his stream from I didn't see what happened. It was a DM or something he got, and it was a weird anonymous thing, and then everyone turns it into this giant witch hunt, and then nothing really comes of it. But that was
it's if anything's gonna come out, probably Danny has to swing the first shot. But
and again, based off what I heard, that wasn't I did look into it because I was like, okay, well, I guess I should look into this, and it seems like it's really mostly nothing. I mean, if there's any issues, it's kind of around like how things went on behind the scenes with Danny and EG and all that stuff during the year, but we don't get any behind the scenes content anymore, so who really knows what went on? Anyway, that was a fun one.
Why tell a story when we can bury it?
Yeah, JPEGs
I
for
thought
Twitter.
Nicole's answer was interesting. I was hoping some more sauce would come out, but we never got any follow up.
Yeah, I don't think there's much sauce to be had.
Max Waldo starting a porn video.
Yes, I did. I was gonna make that joke, and then you made it first.
I held back so many tweets about it, about how like I was gonna say that this video should be taken down, but then again, porn is highly relevant to the League audience.
Oh, just the fact that it's allowed on the League subreddit when a bunch of other stuff has not been. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I thought so. Do you know about Max's like League account?
No.
His League account that he's been streaming on for like a month now is C9 Travis Gafford, and and that's what he's just playing on all the time. And so I constantly show up in his chat and accuse him. Like last week, I think we raided him and accused him of copyright infringement and stuff. So yeah.
So here's what I'll say. Because Raz is saying it's league related, leave him alone. I actually think it should be on the subreddit. My problem has always been taking too much off the subreddit. The only reason I ever complain about things being left up is like a double standard kind of thing, or like really take this down but not that kind of thing.
I mean, the funniest thing is
crushed that. Max was so good in that. That was actually he was great in that video.
Yeah, Max is very good at it. I think what's funny about that leaving it up. I'm not saying it should be taken down, but I think it's funny to leave it up when they've taken down so much other stuff. I think the funniest thing about it is like it's such a great advertisement for that Reddit account, which is not safe for work. Do not click on it if you are at work or if you are under the age of 18. But yeah, it's just it's a very, 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 very clever marketing tactic is the way that I think. Okay, so
what else I'll say is I feel like historically, Cloud9 as an org, if you were going to play 6 degrees of separation with OnlyFans, Cloud9 has probably always had the closest connection to it.
Let's move on.
So
Pyosik actually that is new news, right? Because like there were some rumors about it, but I don't think that was even like a leading rumor for quite some time. And now we know that he is joining Team Liquid, which is actually pretty spicy and interesting. That's about the only like real big the only new news I think is the best way to put it from this past week.
Yeah, it sounded like people were speculating it was going to be Umpty,
yes.
And then it
because Summit like tweeted it. I don't know if you know that, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just trying to be vague, but yeah, I think what happened was that probably was the plan until whatever was going on at DRX. I don't know if you followed that drama at all, but like Doinby leaked that like DRX got fucked over and it blew up, and then Deft was like, supposedly Doinby was saying stuff that wasn't happening, so then Deft fired back at Doinby, and then Doinby clarified. And there's like some drama there. And in the end, it meant that Pyosik was available to be signed. And I think if I had to guess anything, Team Liquid just kind of pivoted once they saw that and snatched him up.
Yeah. Okay, so what else? Oh, CLG announced their full roster in a very obvious and not particularly clever Twitter method.
There's so many like
at least they tried.
We already knew. Yeah.
At least they tried.
I think I appreciate it. I thought it was a good attempt of like trying to bait people into thinking that they're saying goodbye to them. And then the whole like little video of being like, I'm trying to play WoW. Fuck it. Just keep the team. I'm too lazy to do any actual GMing. I thought it was all cute. Much better
it was
than
like
graphics.
It was like a dad joke of roster announcements or whatever. It was like nobody really thought that there was anything going on there, but it was still cute. I guess TSM officially announced their spring roster.
There's a lot of announcements of things we knew. I think Prince might be the only one that we weren't 100% confirmed on. It sounded like there were a couple options potentially.
Pyosik too, right? Or are you saying still?
Well, Pyosik. Other than Pyosik, there was Prince, and that's basically it.
Is it Pyosik? Like, is it an SH noise?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think it's Pyosik, but I could be white and wrong.
I think what is interesting is also just to see the TSM fan announcement to their roster announcement.
It was pretty. I went to the subreddit on that one. I had
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
I will own
just
up. Sorry, go ahead.
the thing that made that one interesting was I like a month ago or so did like the stream or maybe on the show where I was like, yeah, I think they're gonna go pretty budget and it's not gonna be that big. And then like people were like, oh, after you said that and it went on the subreddit, Andy was talking about how they're doubling down on League of Legends and blah blah blah. Like in response
Yeah.
to what I had said, which like ultimately supposedly they're announcing something in January. We'll see. I don't know what that is. Like I'm not trying to argue that they're not doing something interesting in League. I don't know what that
But
could
it's
be. I'm
certainly not the
skeptical.
roster.
But like
Which
saying
is
that kind of in response to the roster stuff, and then I had people coming to me being like, "Yeah, but didn't you see what they said?" I was like, "I stand by what I like. I feel pretty good about my sources. I really would be shocked if they come in and do something crazy." And then sure enough, they did what
yeah.
everyone was expecting them to do.
So I will own up to my more degenerate behaviors. One of which is like anytime a team is going through something dramatic or something that's unpopular, I will lurk their subreddit. So like when the C9 stuff happened with LS or like I don't know Summit leaving, whatever it is, Team Liquid Reddit. Anytime there's anything dramatic, I will lurk that Reddit and just drinking the juices of upset fans. Not because I dislike any of them. I do it to every subreddit, but it's just I don't know something cathartic about it.
I mean, it's like obviously toxicity is not a cool thing, but outside of that, it is always just exciting to see people passionate and caring. You know what I mean? Like that. Maybe that's like the copium angle on it, but like I actually really do like to see
well,
that
and
level of care.
if I want to defend the practice a little bit, when you see just the subreddit, and because it's an upvote downvote system, if everyone hates TSM fans, they're just going to get downvoted if they say something unpopular. But if you go to their subreddit, that might be actually a popular sentiment, and so it can be hard to get a fan base's independent reaction if you're just on the main subreddit. So I do think there's times where it's valuable to be like, oh, TSM fans are actually happy about this when I thought they were sad because everyone's shitting on them.
It is interesting to see where the subreddit diverges or where the team subreddit diverges from the main subreddit in terms of opinions on stuff. Because sometimes they'll have an even more extreme. Like I think that the TSM roster announcement on the main subreddit, everybody's like, "Yep, okay, whatever." Like they're checked out. Then you go to the TSM subreddit, and people are just like pretty unhappy. So it is interesting to see the difference. But yeah,
I was gonna say something else, but I forgot now.
Okay, so I think that
people are talking about Project L. I don't think we care. I mean, not that I don't care about the game, but like on this show, I don't think we.
Yeah, I don't. I
don't talk about new TFT sets.
Yeah, I think my take on Project L, even beyond like the show, is they've been teasing that shit for a long time. Like this is why I don't like anyone who thinks that the MMO is coming anytime soon should look at how long they've been talking about Project L and then compare the amount of content that is in a fighting game to the amount of content that is in an MMO. Like
they have like 4 playable characters whose art is clearly still not done, and it looks really good. I'm not slamming it, but just saying like
it is hard
at in that project
for me now. Like whenever I was younger in like high school and college, I would see stuff get teased, and I could kind of get strung along by like the drip marketing for years. And now I'm just sort of like, yeah, okay, let me know when this thing is a thing. And that's kind of where I'm at on the fighting game. Though interesting week for fighting games. For those,
the Smash drama, dude. Oh, where's our juicy drama like the Smash drama? That's actually sad drama though, because it's like that's like legitimately ruining the scene drama, not like
some of it is sad for sure. So for those that don't know, it's a little complicated to explain. You can go find some decent articles, but basically Nintendo, who has historically been generous, awful, I think is the way to say, or generously perhaps described as apathetic to esports, though sometimes I think even
they have been
hostile.
Actively antagonistic to to Smash esports.
Yes, they have partnered with an organization named Panda Global, which is kind of like an esports org, content org type thing, who are kind of trying to take over the entire Smash scene, which was previously very community based and run by like a bunch of different organizers. And there was a very, very large event that was so like about as world's equivalent as you can get in Smash, from my understanding, that had to be canceled because of Nintendo refusing to give them a license, and then everybody's kind of done pretty shit PR around it since then. The thing I tweeted out, like, oh, things are getting spicy over there, and people were like, well, it's actually quite sad. Obviously, it's very sad. The thing that's spicy to me is Ludwig announcing he's going to do a Smash event the same time as the Panda Global event, just sort of to fuck with them and also challenge Nintendo to actually do something. So I do think it's a little spicy over there, but there's some interesting stuff. But actually, I think to bring it back to League of Legends, my time getting into Magic the Gathering recently, and my time, what's that?
Nothing. I just said, oh no.
No, my time getting into Magic the Gathering and my time getting into, or at least following the Smash stuff. Riot Games, look, I have been very critical of them for a while, but I gotta say it is nice to have a developer that actually does care. They might not always care about the same things as us, but boy golly gee, I think they are not hostile to their consumers, which some of these other companies are. And yeah, now that I say that, somebody in the comments is going to be like, yeah, well, whatever. They nerfed my champion after I bought a skin one time 6 months ago.
No, they take money from China. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
What?
God, there was something else. I just forgot what it was. God damn it.
See, I'm just stalling so that we have as little time as possible for
you. Just keep rambling, and then you make me forget my point. I don't remember. I was like, oh, I had like an interjection there.
What about Smash?
Dead.
What about
Ludwig? It was something else.
Panda, Nintendo.
Yeah, Ludwig or Panda or something.
Okay. Now that I've stalled enough, that the second half of the show will be not as
I'm
long.
only pulling like 3 or 4 takes so we can do the second half.
No,
of the show.
We actually have decent things to talk about.
We didn't talk.
Okay, here's what Mark explain to everybody how you don't want to talk about League of Legends this episode of Hotline League.
Okay, you run a poll after I'm done explaining what this is, and we'll gauge the sentiment.
Okay.
So it's a slow week. We talked up already about almost everything worthwhile talking about. There's a couple takes to hear what fans think, and of course we'll take those. But beyond that, it's a very slow week. And normally what we do here is open it up for whatever calls, but usually those calls are pretty weak sauce and not very enjoyable. So I pitched Travis last week, very hard, was Hotline Life. And I even talked about at the end of the previous episode too, where the second hour is instead us just taking calls about literally anything, not just anything league related, but about life advice and trying to give as much help as we can, which is probably pretty minimal. That sounds a lot more fun to me, talking to our fans about their lives, than
the poll is up, and people in the chat are spamming no and pass and Resident Sleeper.
Team Wickwood.
The poll is up. Vote in the poll. I'm voting no.
I vote yes.
It's in the Twitch above the chat.
Ooh, Cloud9, my favorite team. I think they do good.
What?
That's what the second hour is going to be if we don't do Hotline League or Hotline Life.
I am not desperate, Raz. There's one man who's desperate. I think we could actually open. My favorite shows.
League of Legends.
My favorite show, or some of my favorite shows for Hotline have been whenever we just open it up and talk about whatever, but not that whatever.
Hotline Love was a masterpiece, and you're afraid to do it again and not be able to follow it up. So this is a nice out. You're like Pat Rothfuss. You're like afraid to write the third book.
No, I think that I still care about doing my job in a way that man does
not. Won, Travis. Look
so
at that. It
53% yes.
Landslide victory. And a landslide victory.
53% yes, 47% no. The thing is, Mark, the no's, this implies we will lose half of our viewership in
No, they won't. They have nothing better to do on a Monday night.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna
do the poll with points.
Smash Ika says I will absolutely leave. Okay.
I bet you won't. You say that. Ika, what's going on in your life right now? You probably need some advice on something.
We'll take a look at how bad the viewership gets, but We need to do at least an hour of real League of Legends content so that I can
It's been an
run
hour.
ads during that time.
It's roughly been an hour.
That is not accurate in the slightest. Okay.
Maybe you should do an ad now.
If you do not like this Hotline Life thing that will happen later on the show, please forward all that feedback to Mark Zimmerman.
I'm not checking Twitter very often these days, so go right ahead. DMs are open.
Okay. Mark, you want to go grab our first caller?
Yes.
Okay. Off Mark goes. Ovally messaged me 21 minutes ago and said, put me in. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. What else are we doing? Oh, yeah. I can scream at some subs. Who has subbed? Oh, Mark is back already. We'll do that afterwards. Mark?
Read now? No?
Yeah.
Yes?
Where's that? I was going to read some subs. Go for it.
Okay, no. It's just subs.
Akina is here. Akina, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. I just want to expectation set everybody about who Akina is. When I go to their profile on Discord, they are self-described as the best Yuumi player. So let's use that as the launching board. Okay, what do you want to talk about on the show, Akina?
I want to talk about Pyosik signing by TLs. And TL has the best signing in NA and the offseason by signing the active world champion. And Pyosik literally gapped some of the best jungler in the world, even though he received undeserved criticisms. And some of the best jungler in the world couldn't even do what they normally do because of him. And DRX would never make even finals if he played worse. And TL will win LCS with the best top jungle and former world champion Core JJ.
Okay, so are you saying that Pyosik is the biggest signing this offseason in North America?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's hop into it then. Mark, is this true?
I don't agree that Pyosik's the best signing this offseason.
Because it doesn't feel like it, right? Like, that's the funny thing is, and I don't know if it's because everything else got announced before, and maybe if this had been rumored for a while or teased out, it would have been something where people would have been like, holy shit, we're getting somebody that just is coming off of our World Finals. But it feels like it's kind of like a general shrug from the community from what I've seen. I don't know. Maybe I'm not looking in the right places, but...
So here's the positive spin I'll give you. I do think he's good. I think the concern that you have is that if you watch a lot of the year, DRX was a bit of a struggle bus team that really got together at the end. And Pyosik was up and down, even qualifying for Worlds. Juhan was subbed in, helped them get to Worlds before Pyosik was like the full-time starter. When Pyosik is on, he's quite good. I think people worry about the smites. I don't really give a shit about that. I think he can be very, very good. He also has an incredible personality, and I'm very excited to have him in content in North America, assuming that can translate across, language barrier and cultures, whatnot. But like, he was very funny. Every time that they won, he had some dance of the champion he did and stuff like that. He was originally a streamer, so I think he gets the entertainment angle. And in that sense, he's someone that you should be excited about joining the North American scene. He's not this like no name, no face grind lord who you're never going to see probably. That said, I feel like Prince is the biggest. I think Pyosik's up there. I think he's one of the biggest signings, but I think Prince is probably the biggest for me.
Yeah, I mean, I do. It's interesting because I feel like not very many Western LCS fans are very familiar with Prince. I don't know if we have a call about Prince later on, Mark.
We have a FlyQuest call. That's okay.
So maybe we'll dive into it there. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. Caller, what do you have to rebuttal here with Mr. Mark Zimmerman?
I think for Pyosik, what he has is he is coming into a Korean-speaking team, so he would be more able to adapt compared to Prince, who would be coming into a North American team compared to TLs.
Do you think there's any value in that, Mark? Is that he's better set up for success?
Then Prince maybe. I'm very intrigued because I had said in the previous time that like it was kind of under the surface that like they want to run this team more like an LCK team in terms of like hours worked and like approach to the game and stuff like that. And fortunately, in their video where they put the team together, Dodo outright talks about that. So I'm glad that this is like my big thing is I always like when teams just give me like their own internal metrics, their approach to the year. It makes as a fan easy to connect with. It makes it as someone covering the scene very easy to tell their story. Whereas some teams are like, why did you put this team together? And then they have nothing to give you. They're like, because we had assigned 5 names and I picked them out of a bowl, and then were left over from the other names that I actually wanted, or something. Like so.
Do they usually say that, Mark? Is that what those teams?
I feel like I saw a press conference from Dig that said that last year or something. I don't know. No.
No, but to your point, I think it does. It is oftentimes the community tries to figure out how to grade like the performance of a team, and usually I feel like the way they do it is by just like, when you spend that much money on a team, you should get this amount of results or something like that, right? But it's the old rings of power methodology. But then whenever you have like a team that's like actually coming out and like, this is what we're gonna do. Because for instance, wouldn't it be crazy if this team doesn't play much Champions Queue? It's like after all this or whatever, like they're like, oh yeah, we're not going to play Champions Queue or something.
Maybe I would see them, if anything, doing like a 3rd scrim block. Maybe that's why their champion numbers are down. But like if this team comes out and doesn't try that hard after that being like their whole push, I would laugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like it's an exciting team because it's not just like 5 imports. Obviously with Harry and Jan stepping up a little bit. Core JJ is like basically a U.S. citizen. Is he? He got a green card. Whatever.
Yeah, he is. That's what the whole beginning of this year was. He's not a citizen, but
yeah. So like you can debate, but whatever. I think there's like a lot of I expect some good things out of this team, but even with Pyosik joining an environment like that, I'm not sure if just like that makes him the best pickup. Yeah, yep. I mean, it's close. It's maybe close. I think it's a good point that was brought up, because like it's true that this at least is like internally more similar than maybe the situation Prince is stepping into at FlyQuest.
I think I like your call a lot, caller, even if Mark and kind of I don't agree with it, because it almost illustrates an interesting thing, which is I am surprised there isn't more hype around this, because I think this is the first time we've never signed anybody straight off of a World Finals win, right? Like the closest we ever came was like Crown, like 12 months after.
Most year a year later. Yeah. Piglet, Crown, Impact, Core JJ.
And so
Bang was I think more than 1 year. Maybe Bang was a year removed.
So less than a month after lifting the trophy.
Sword Art. And Sword Art came right after winning. Sword Art came right after winning.
Less than a month after lifting the trophy, and like we're still. It's not a lot.
He didn't win. He was just in finals. Holy shit. So what happened that year? That year is a fucking black box to me.
All the COVID years are. I think it's very funny whenever I do my surprise test with the casters and you ask them about anything that happened in 2020 or 2021, they're like, anyway, it's fascinating. I think it's just interesting that there's not more hype there, but maybe Pyosik was not the star of that team in the way that maybe others were. Maybe if he had signed Deft. All right, Akina, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Shout out TL making one of the best moves to win LCS this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Mark, do you think that TL is going to win LCS with this roster? Like, do you think, okay, in the past, when Team Liquid has assembled, like, superstar teams, you're like, okay, this is the team to beat. Why does it not feel that way this time? Because I think you're going to say that they're not just, like, a for sure thing,
Well, I think normally they sign, like, legitimately 5 players who you've known and seen be arguably the best in their role. Harry and Jan are coming up from Academy, and we're dominant in Academy, or not like individually dominant, but their team was dominant. And so I think there's a lot of reason to have faith in them. But I do think there is like 3 very big names around them, and then these 2 guys. And I think those 2 guys are making a question mark for a lot of people, myself included. I think they will be a very good team. I just don't think that it's like clear favorite territory the way it felt like when it was last year or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Very good. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Alienware. So Alienware, if you would like to go get an Alienware computer with a 4000 series GPU in it, you can now do that, by the way. I just want to let you know. And go over to alienware.com/Travis, click on the desktops, view Alienware monitors, and the R15 gaming desktops have 4090s in them if you decide to build it out that way. So you can get a RTX 4090, officially the 4000 series GPUs in the R15 gaming desktops. We love to see it. I talked to Alienware and will hopefully be getting one of those in the near future myself. So that's going to be pretty cool. We love rendering 4K video on those things, but also playing video games on them, which might be something that you're interested in. The other thing that they have now, which might be of interest to some of you keyboard enthusiasts, is they now have a 10 keyless gaming keyboard. So that's one of those like smaller form factor ones where it doesn't have the numpad. And so if you like that type of keyboard, which I know are popular with certain types of gamers, please go check it out. They have it on their store. It's the AW420K, which you can find over, again, at alienware.com/Travis. And if you purchase through alienware.com/Travis, which I've seen many of you have done, especially during the Black Friday deals and holiday deals and all that stuff, a portion of that comes back to TGI. So thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate also when you guys message me and let me know that you did that. It's really cool to see. And it gives me a reminder to go check the sort of system that I have access to check it out. But again, there's a link in the description below, alienware.com/Travis. It's a great way to support the channel. They've got some really cool products over there and some good deals going on during the holidays. So please check out alienware.com/Travis. You'll love to see it. Okay. Mark, you ready for the next caller?
Yeah, let's do it.
Off Mark goes. He's been pulling. He has a decent amount of people in the waiting room, so I'm curious to see how that goes because I don't think that these people are probably the Hotline Life folks. Okay, on the sub count situation, we've gotten a bunch of subs this show, and I haven't had a chance to shout any out. Trevor Monreal, Immortal Scrub, Photo LOL, Ian7J2, That Baked Panda, the one and only Corbin, and it looks like our next caller is here, so we'll get back to that in a second. But Tuft is here. Tuft, where are you calling from?
I'm coming from beautiful Seattle, Washington, where it is not raining because it is freezing cold, so it's snowing. Not right this second.
Is it snowing? Has it been snowing up there?
It snowed a little bit, like the last few days, and that is more than usual. So
nice.
It's snowing a lot.
Is it still? Does it melt immediately, or is it like very nice outside your window?
It melts, and then it gets cold overnight, and then it freezes over, and then everyone crashes shit.
Oh. Okay.
Then,
well,
yeah. Lots of car accidents.
Stay safe. All right. What do you want to talk about?
Do you have any webcams set up or cameras in like your area to watch all the collisions happen? That's my favorite time of year.
No, I don't. I work at.
Oh,
UPS,
not you personally,
though.
but like the security
so
cameras.
So I get to hear my drivers tell me that they ran into shit, and then yeah.
Well,
we have to go out and help them.
Let's not talk about vehicular damage. Let's talk about League of Legends. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I called in last split saying that Contracts and Palafox were a top 3 mid-jungle duo in the LCS. And then everyone called me crazy. And then CLG popped off in playoffs and was the only team to actually challenge C9. This year, I think that CLG is a lock for top 4. I think that they will probably make it to finals at least once and will make it to Worlds.
How did you think? What did you think of their mid-jungle performance at Worlds?
Well, this year it was, struggling a little bit. Obviously they didn't make it to Worlds, and so they didn't. Well, I did get to meet their mid laner at Worlds, if that counts.
Oh yes,
and that was pretty cool.
Did you recognize him?
Were you
because
the one
not
person
very
you recognized?
Yeah.
No, but I was. I wasn't in that video, but I was in another one of the videos. I was the one who said "hot goss" in the.
Yes.
The one about the time slot
Wait.
change. Yeah.
Do you? Okay, hang on. You have to disclose this. Do you work for CLG?
I don't work for CLG. I'm just a really insufferable fan.
Okay, did you at the time? Because I saw Danielle or somebody from CLG like act as though they knew who you were or whatever.
That's because I went to all of their events every day that I was there.
Okay. So you're a legit CLG fan.
Yeah.
It must have been nice to have a team that decided to activate at Worlds.
It was pretty sick.
Yeah.
All the other fans were feeling real goofy.
Yes. All right. Sorry, just not to go too off topic, but I just unfortunately saw. Is this what you know what this is, Mark?
Probably. It's what I just linked you.
Oh, you linked it to me. I was I just went to Twitter as you were talking, and Mark has a new methodology for promoting the show, which is by hitting the fat astronaut version of himself onto Twitter.
Bro, okay, so a couple things about this fucking app. First off, like I saw it and I was like, oh, I gotta do this. It looks cool. I didn't know it cost money. And then like I know there are free versions, but I was just too lazy to find them. So I did one for Ashley first, and like she got all these like fairy woodland, like elvish anime fantasy things. Looks awesome. I do one series. I wanted to do a combination of troll and serious, and I was like, fine, I'll just do 2 separate batches, which is just like costing a ton of money. I do a serious batch, and I'm just in space for every fucking kind. If I'm an adventurer, I'm in space. I'm not a fantasy adventurer. I'm a space adventurer.
In the serious
everything
one?
I do is what's that?
In the serious one, you are?
Yeah, and then so I was like, okay, it must be like all the pictures. I should have selected other or female just to see what it did, but I selected male again. That was my folly.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what would happen if I selected something. I should have selected something else, but I just put really troll pictures of myself in where I like, compress my neck or I'm making faces and stuff. And I was still in space in all of them. I'm still a fucking astronaut in every picture that the AI draws of me. Except now I'm a fat astronaut.
All right, can we get back on topic? So,
come on, let's
Mark,
get back on topic.
Okay, so wait, what was your final thing for next year? Your prediction for 23 for them?
Yeah, they're going to be a lock for top 4. They're going to make finals of LCS at least once. They're going to make it to Worlds. Okay. I mean, I think they're going to win everything, but that's beside the point.
So lock, we've got several stages here. So lock for top 4.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like it's a little contrary with they're going to make finals.
Well, I mean, like regular season, and I think end of the year, the consensus will be they're like one of the top 4 teams.
Okay, so they hit top 4 at the end of the regular season. Then they make it to finals. You said in either spring or summer.
Spring or summer, probably both, if I'm being realistic. But
if you're being realistic, I love that. It's, if you're being realistic, probably both. Normally, people use that phrase to kind of hedge.
Well, I mean, I am hedging. There are 9 other teams,
and then and then they make it to Worlds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally, I would predict the semifinals run, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
Mark.
Yeah.
Let's start with stage 1. We're in playoffs. We're Palafox and Contracts a top 3 mid jungle duo.
No.
What are you talking about?
Obviously, C9 and EG had them beat. I think it's a little debatable up there. Afterwards, you're like TSM, TL, 100 Thieves. I would still probably put 100 Thieves up there. But yeah, I mean, they were good. They gave TL a little bit of, or a C9 a run for their money in the upper bracket, a little bit in the lower bracket too. Some close games. But I don't know. I'm just a hater. I mean, the thing is that the takes are so hot. I can't help but be like a cold glass of water.
Let me run you through my thought process. That's not just pure cope, right? So
for this year or next year or last year.
Why I'm projecting CLG to be so good.
Okay, that's what I care more about, the projection.
So last year, right? I think they had their best showing, like the most, like the big coming out party other than like their success in the regular season was like they pushed C9 to 5 games. And they were like, okay, well, C9 was just kind of mid, so whatever. But then C9 won the whole thing, right? And that was on, like, maybe the best possible patch for C9. And it was the only patch they really looked, like, super good on all year, which was when they just got to do the Zeri-Sivir trade every single game and win both sides of it because Berserker is just insane on those 2 champions. Which also happened to be a patch that I don't think was very good for CLG because Luger was just, like, not a very good Zeri compared to, like, the top end of LCS AD carries. And he was a lot better on, like, strong laning champions and, like, stuff like Kai'Sa. I also think that, just, like, top to bottom, everyone is super hardcore underrating every member of this team. Like, not going to name and shame any people, but there were a few people in the NA men ecosystem who are rating like Palafox like a bottom 2 mid laner, which is just crazy to me. And I also think that Contracts was I'm pretty hot on Contracts, but I thought he was like probably the 3rd best jungler after or maybe the 4th best jungler after like Blabber Closer Inspired in playoffs. And when you combine all that plus the fact that they now have actual playoff experience that they didn't have before, which I think is like a large contributing factor to why they sort of choked against TL, then I think that like the people who are projecting this roster to be like low versus the top end are just delusional.
Put some respect on Santorin's name, but otherwise sure on the jungler list.
I mean, what's fascinating about this is Contracts there was a little bit of Dokla rumor, but Contracts was consistently reported as being sort of the number 1 contender for a potential change for CLG if they decided to make one.
Well, yeah, but then they just realized Contracts was better than all the other options, so they kept him. And then
or they felt like they didn't want to spend
scrubs like Spica and Closer and Santorin.
I don't think that that's probably an accurate representation of how those things went. So
Spica just made a highlight montage and sent it to them, and they were like, "You know what? You're right."
Yeah, exactly. It's like they just woke up one day and realized that maybe when they looked at it from a cost, like $1 per output type thing. Anyway.
All right, their competition is Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, Dignitas, C9, FlyQuest, and them. Is there anyone I'm forgetting who's like legit dangerous? I don't think TSM Immortals or
Golden Guardians.
Well, the Golden Guardians seem too big of a threat. Am I forgetting someone? EG. Oh yeah, EG as well. So there's 7 competitors, 3. What's a word that's not insulting that I can use?
Well, there would be only 2, not 3, because there's 9 other teams.
Yeah, I mean total. There's 7 competitive teams.
So okay.
One of them. Yeah. Dogs. Yeah, I said
3 challengers. Dark horses. I don't know.
Yeah, dark horses. Let's call them that. There's 3
That's
dark
really
horses.
Generous to TSM.
I think. So in that sense, I think
emerging teams.
Even TSM. If I'm being honest, I can see a world where they're better than some of these top 7 teams. Like one of them, you're like, let's just say 100 Thieves just booms, right? They just don't function, or something. Like I could actually see a world where TSM crawls up the rankings a little bit. But I think that's just I'm just a doubter. I'm just a hater. In the thread. When they announced this roster, people were flaming the dive and me for putting them low, even
That's
though
That's true.
After a single, I put them a 10th, and then after a single week when they went 3-0, I was like, this is not a fluke. They're legit. I fucked up. They're going to be top 6 for sure. I said that immediately after week 1. People still flame me for hating them, and I'm gonna hate on them again.
I mean, when you went on the dive, that was kind of you doubling down because you ranked him 10th in the blame game first, and then
wait, you're punishing me because I'm on multiple podcasts and I'm consistent?
Yes, absolutely. You slander CLG twice, you get slandered twice back. That's just fair.
Not a podcast. The blame game is a show.
Whatever. I make content and I don't flip flop my views to cover all my bases.
I mean, I think you actually have before.
I'm not asking you to flip flop your views. I'm just saying that you should probably recognize Braden Smith staring you in the face. And I mean, my boys in blue are right there.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I'm gonna close my eyes and avert them again. I think that they will be.
You're gonna feel real silly. That's all I'm gonna say.
Middle of the pack.
Real silly.
You can make fun of me with them at finals in spring, wherever that's at.
I'll clip this. I'll go back.
Yeah. Someone made a fan video that was like, when people do those things. That was you? Oh yeah, fuck! Yeah. I watched that video. It was really funny. There was a lot of me in that video.
Well, I mean, just
I think so. Travis, here's what I'll say. Travis, I don't know if you saw this, but like he and I, last week, we're taking a walk and talking about how much we appreciate fans just going out and making content, because a lot of like really popular things that like blew up back when we were coming up were just
Mark and I talked about this a little bit on Rift Reaction last week, but I'm thinking about making a video, which I know is like my common line, but on how I feel like teams aren't doing a good job of creating content, and so I'd love to see fans pick up the slack for them. Not that it should be the fans' job to do it, but like early on, you had like Peace Pigeon, you had a lot of people just posting meme stuff to to Reddit, and like clearly you can post meme stuff to Reddit based off of what was at the top of it yesterday. So I love to see like members of the community create sort of fan cams and stuff like that. But no, I didn't see this. Go ahead and continue.
Anyway, so Tufts made a pretty funny video, just like making fun of people who doubted CLG, and it's just one of those classic videos. Golden Guardians has made them about me before, where it's just like clips of me saying they're gonna suck, followed by like montages of good plays and highlights and stuff. And I think those are really funny.
Being a doubter is a valuable community service, even if we roast you for it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate when people, even CLG themselves, were great about it last year. They gave me a jersey. Like on week 2 or 3, that made fun of me for not believing in them or something. I don't remember what it was. So yeah, on that point, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad that people are seeing it, because this team is cracked, and I love them.
So as for me, where did they finish in summer this year?
They finished 4th.
Okay.
It was them and then C9. So C9 was technically the underdog going into the series.
I do think CLG will be one of the most interesting teams to look at next year, because we're seeing again a lot of change in the league. And here's the problem, like 100T won at the end of 2021, and then they lost the next 2 splits but made the finals of both without changing their roster. Mm-hmm. So I think the question is, the last time we saw a team decide to keep its roster for a while, it didn't seem like they really benefited from doing that, which is disappointing, because I think that teams should keep their rosters more often, and I'm happy that CLG did. I think the question is, can CLG kind of change that, right? Like, how much more room to grow do they have? The other thing is, Contracts consistently has kind of shit spring splits, and didn't he again this past year?
Well, that's intentional. I think he sandbags spring so that when he
how are you gonna call them top 3 while saying your jungler sandbagging?
Yeah. I mean, he joked about
so
that
he
in
has
an interview.
Momentum is so important. It's all about momentum. Okay, look, if this CLG team was like 4th in spring and then was like 9th in summer, do you think people would be this excited about them? No. Do you think that they would have re-signed all the same players? No. So you got to have an upwards positive trajectory. How do you do that? You do it by sandbagging, by intentionally being dog shit to lower
Travis, get me out of here. We have 4 other people we got to get through to do Hotline Life.
Thank you.
I know you're hoping this guy just keeps talking, but
is there anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Yeah, I told someone when I was in the waiting room that I would shout out John Boys, who I also love. He's does really good long-form traditional sports content on YouTube, lots of charts and graphs and stuff that are animated in Google Earth. Shout out to CLG for being the greatest team in League of Legends history. It's going to be the first North American team to win Worlds. And shout out the boys who are all over in Korea.
So at 4 a.m. last night, when I was trying to think of like gift guides for teams, I had no fucking clue what to think of CLG. They really got to figure out like what their brand or memes are. Like the last thing they ever had was like the Faith Age thing, and that was like half a decade ago.
Their brand is just being the best.
Oh God! All right, you did not help. Goodbye, Tuft.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Mark, I noticed that your camera is like out of focus. I don't know if you want to fix that, but it's actually very soft.
We'll see.
It would be nice if you did. Okay, off Mark goes. Thank you to Ari Waddle for 50 months. 50. Thank you, Ari Waddle. Lil Bonaparte, Yanya, oh my God, Joseph Joestar, Tree Bird is the word, gave out a sub, Jushi, Jason Krieg, Shadow Spectre for Year Numi gifted to Colomer and LCS Bree. And it looks like Mark is back with Washi here. Mark, you're still a little out of focus. Washi,
I haven't done anything about it, and I might continue to do nothing about it.
Where are you calling from, Washi?
Tampa, Florida.
And what do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I think that FlyQuest won the offseason hands down. The ceiling on this team is the highest it's ever been. So if they come even remotely close to that, then they'll be the most competitive and relevant they've ever been. And if you want me to elaborate on that, I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. So the team is expected to be Impact, Spica, Vikla, Prince, and Ayla. I don't want to do the Hotline League classic of going over every player, but to sum up, they have the known and loved names of Impact and Spica, and they have the very promising imports of Vikla and Prince. So not only do they have the brand power of loved and well-known domestic players, they have powerhouse imports that will very likely give them, in my opinion, a very strong chance of going to Worlds and maybe even winning the split. So compared to previous splits, they have the relevance and just the strength that they've never had.
All right, and you think what do you think the max sort of limit is for them, or like the peak potential is?
I feel like I genuinely feel like they could potentially go to Worlds with, and this is coming from a Cloud9 fan, but with the dispersion of like powerhouse names going, like spreading out, I feel like if they hit their peak, FlyQuest that is, if all of those players hit their peak, they honestly could maybe. It feels weird to say that FlyQuest would win the split, but they've, I mean, come really close. What was it, 2 years ago, with lesser teams? I feel like they could very easily, maybe take the split. So yeah.
Maybe I do very easily. Maybe take the split. Is that what you said? That does not sound. It does not reek of confidence.
All right, it's so funny how the CLG caller is out of his fucking gourd thinking that they're going to be as good as they are, and I think you have a really good case to be like strong, But it's like, I think they're really good. I think I'm with you, because I think in terms of name brand, like there's always someone who wins the offseason or like has the scariest team on paper, because you're assuming that everyone hits their peaks, and they're gelling and there's no problems. And I think that team is FlyQuest this year. I know people might like 100 Ds for the name power, but just like recent history, I think, it has to be actually FlyQuest. Like Vikla could be in best mid NA conversation, could end up being it if they're playing well and has good synergy with Spica. Impact's always in that conversation for top lane. Prince should be in that conversation for bot lane. Like it's just top to bottom, like a pretty stacked roster. So I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense that they would be on paper favorites. Though I do think you can make the case that like some teams having more time spent together, like C9 with only like one real change, or TL having like a more unified culture, might give them an edge. But like just name power, it's FlyQuest for sure.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to be a very interesting team to look at next year, not just from a performance perspective, but like this is a set. In a lot of ways, I feel like this is a brand new LCS team. Like like Trish is gone. I know that on the content side, like Ricky, who used to run their content stuff, left several months ago, and then you have Papa Smithy come in. You have new ownership, and then you have a completely new roster. And certainly, I'm sure, like Nick over, who's like the GM, might be the oldie thing that at least attached to the competitive side that will feel.
But even the way they built this roster is like different, where it's like Philip and Kumo and like the people that they used to get in Takoi were like the underdog, scrappy, feels good story, and this is like the slam money on the table, let's fucking go approach.
Yeah. So like I don't know. On the other hand, I feel like there's going to be teams like Team Liquid and 100T that are just going to naturally get more attention, I guess is the best way to put it. And so there's not a really great word for it. It's not underdogs, because it's almost like fan underdogs or brand underdogs, because I just don't think a lot of people are going to be like, yo, Fly's where it's at. And again, I know, as always, that a lot of the people that are listening to this show and watch the show every week are going to be feeling that way because they're watching LCK all the time and watching LPL all the time, and they live, eat, and breathe League of Legends. But I think people forget that there are a lot of League of Legends fans who show up on week 2 of LCS and go, oh, LCS started because Riot doesn't do a good job of marketing it. And then when they do, they're like, what, Double Lift is back? What? And on 100T with Bjergsen? Like, there's a lot of this crazy stuff that happens, and I feel like those folks are going to not really be thinking too much of these FlyQuest guys until they start putting out results.
In terms of like brand power and immediate storytelling, they might have the least of like the other really popular teams or like teams that might be good. Like 100 Thieves, it's getting the band back together. Korea TL, I forget what they're calling it, TLCK or whatever.
Is that what they're calling it? I actually really like that.
I think so. I forget. You know, like C9 mostly has the same pieces. With if you like Fudge or Berserker, Blabber, whoever, you'll still like that team. Even Dignitas has like, depending on, I don't know exactly how much weight Jensen carries as a big name, but like people will know Jensen. Whereas Vikla, they'll have to be like, who the fuck, unless you were actually watching LCK last year.
Right. So, I mean, go ahead, Colin.
I mean, that's true, but like winning will, if they just start winning immediately, hopefully if they gel, you know, that will be their brand power essentially, because they weren't particularly relevant or dominant kind of since like 2 years ago. So if they do win, that will be their narrative, is that, oh, here are these imports that are, you know, coming in and carrying the league. So I feel like that might be the storyline that might carry them forward.
Yeah, that could
people
happen.
love bandwagons, or people love to bandwagon. Yeah.
Either way, thank you so much, Washi, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, shout out my girlfriend Kristen, who I love very, very much, as well as Alienware, Grubhub, U2, and Twitch chat. Have a good one.
Well, the Twitch chat shout out. They don't deserve
what the
that.
hell?
Anyway, thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Adios.
All right. Off mark goes to grab the next caller. Zamelkai, thank you for the 20 months. User 13377. Pokemans, Abel, Slowbro, SLC Soyboy, Jaffe, Lil Bonaparte gifted 5 subs. Franz League, John G365, The Swift Armadillo, Benjamin for 40 months. Cake and Little Bonaparte for gifting another sub. We are all caught up on the subs now. We did it. Mark should be back here in just a second with our next caller as we continue on with this week's episode of Hotline League. Billabang is here. Billabang, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Windsor, Ontario.
Windsor, Ontario. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about how League Esports could take a few things from regular sports that would make them more exciting. So, like, break times during the game.
Sorry, when you say regular sports, do you mean traditional sports?
Yeah, traditional sports.
Okay. I was just confused there for a second. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so I was saying, like, more coach involvement and, like, actual substitutions. So, for example, like, you had people that you'd sub in after champ select. So, like, for example, someone like Jensen, who's, like, a mage specialty, you have someone else on the team who has a assassin specialty if you're playing an assassin in the mid lane. Because I think it'd make things more exciting, because I feel like there's a lot of people in LOL esports that are really good at a specialized thing, but they fall off when they're playing other stuff like carry top laners who are forced to play tanks. And I think that you could kind of shore up some of those weaknesses if you have more people on teams.
Why don't we see more of this, Mark? I feel like we've probably talked about this at some point in time in our last 5,000 episodes, but like why do we not see more of this? And is it just because synergy trumps versatility?
No. Well, so he's specifically advocating for being able to swap players after draft.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Which I think is a very interesting idea, and I don't hate it. Makes it more difficult for teams. I'm sure teams would be against this change, especially if it's not adapted globally, because then you're practicing a weird version of the game. But I do think it's fun for fans, because you should, in theory, see more cool shit. The thing that I think why it wouldn't happen is because I think Riot likes to try and keep the game relatively close to the solo queue experience. I know, it's a little different still right now, but like they don't want to move too far away from it. So like I think it would seem weird to them to do this.
What about something like I think the halftime, the break thing for me, like the more coaching involvement was kind of a bigger one, because I think like right now you're kind of just like you do champ select, you have like maybe 30 seconds with your coach, and then they go shake hands and you're off the stage, and like you're not talking to your players the whole time, you're not strategizing. So like if you say, for example, like obviously, like I said, like you said, it'd be something to have to be like unified across the globe. But I think like if you had a point in time where it's like, okay, at 10 minutes, you're going to get like a 2-minute break to talk with your coach about your next move, right? You could like, instead of forcing all the strategy on the players who not only have to think about that kind of like all the stuff that's happening in the micro game, but in the macro game as well, you can kind of shift that to your coach and you can give them more recognition. Because I feel like right now coaches get very, very little recognition from the majority of player bases, even if their teams are successful.
Travis, what do you think?
I'm trying to think through it. One, I don't think that you want to. You were suggesting you do a 2-minute pause and let the coach like give advice.
Yeah, basically, like you can talk to
tactical
your
timeout.
Yeah, so I think that what League of Legends needs is more pauses. So I love this. I think more downtime on the broadcast, more moments where nothing's really happening, where action is delayed. I think that that's really good for the sport. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think that we should implement more pauses, and I don't think that like when I look at the issues that are hindering league esports, I don't think a lack of recognition from coaches is it. And I don't think that it also does, like, I'm trying to think of what the benefits are, right? Like, you don't really gain parity. You gain a little bit of narrative around like how a coach is helping, and even then it's always like very vague. Unless you have cameras rolling on how coaches are handling things behind the scenes and what they're bringing to the table, which is oftentimes super either obfuscated because people don't want to show players being issues or because they don't want to leak trade secrets or whatever. You're never really going to know how a player does or what a coach does. Sorry, not a player. And I don't think like adding a 2-minute break into the broadcast is going to do that to allow the coach to talk. I think all it does is sort of slow things down, and I just feel like there's much better ways to like add stuff to the game in the broadcast than it is to do that. Part of the reason why you can do those pauses in traditional sports is because those things need about 500 hours of commercial breaks every time a game happens. And so like there's a natural reason for those pauses to occur. And you also can't have people physically exerting themselves at peak levels for 2 hours straight. So there's like kind of a difference there in terms of why, like, it lends itself to coach downtime in a way that I don't think esports does, and I don't think that we need the benefits of coaches being more involved is in terms of getting that sort of downtime.
So you're saying you want it to be more like soccer, where like soccer obviously is like
I don't want it to be like traditional sports at all. Yeah. I
was gonna say like it's not. I'm saying like because you compare like soccer to like any traditional sport, like traditional North American sports, and like soccer has no breaks, it has halftime, and then it has no breaks. So like that's kind of the game flow you're going for league rather than something like regular like traditional North American sports.
Sure, I guess, but I don't. I think, quite frankly, not to make the conversation too broad, I think we've spent way too much time thinking about League of Legends and as esports within the context of traditional sports. And I think that the game product has suffered because of that. And so I now no longer want to start any conversation with, hey, they do this in traditional sports, so should we? At the very least, I think we've had enough of those conversations over the past decade that I don't know if it really assists us. The only place where I think maybe that's interesting is format discussions and brand stuff from a sponsor integration. And so I don't start anything now with the premise of, hey, this is a thing in traditional sports, so how do we do it? There's an interesting moment, I know he's in the chat right now, where David Shiznik at Worlds, and he and I were at a Red Bull event, and we were doing some sort of I don't know, Q&A panel interaction, and he did the like Jat thing where he's like, it's just like random X player from basketball facing off against other random X player from basketball. I was like, I don't know who that is. And he's like, of course people know who that is. And I was like, okay, raise your hand if you're familiar with who this is. And like less than 10% of the audience raised their hand. I think there are a lot of traditional sports fans who like drive conversation in esports. And I think less and less the audience is interested in like those types of analogies, I guess is the way I would put it. I'm just teasing, David. It was a really good moment because I think it allowed us to have a good conversation. I'm not trying to embarrass you. But like I think like it's but I think what David did there is like I mean, even on this show we do this stuff, and sometimes I do turn to Mark and say, what do you think of this, Mark? How does this work? And he's like, well, Bill Belichick, who's the greatest coach of all time, blah blah blah, the Patriots.
Well, I'm also usually talking about that from like how I'm fucking coaching. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go study the fucking greats. I'm not gonna go pretend that I know better.
Yeah.
At least like I'm at least gonna look at what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but in terms of like media presentation, I think it's fine to like look at those things. But like, yeah, I think to Travis's point, I do think a lot of the loudest people are coming from a world of hardcore sports fandom, and then they become hardcore fans in league esports, but that's not necessarily how everyone watches or what relates to them. So
yeah, I guess I am pretty biased because I grew up watching traditional sports, and then probably like 2014, 2015 is when I started watching esports. So I feel like there was a couple times where it's definitely made me more biased, just because like obviously the popularity of traditional sports is because it's been around for so long, and like I think esports will eventually get there, but obviously right now it's not, and like it's still stuck in its niche. So I think it is, like, you are correct saying that it does need to find its own thing, but I think like there's a few things from traditional sports that I've always been like very advocating of. Geolocation was one, and then this was the other one. So yeah.
Well, here's where I will throw you a bone in this area. I think if you are going to do more to promote coaches and give narratives around coaches, it should probably be on the teams and or maybe the broadcast, but probably the teams to do that, right? Like, I think it makes more sense for teams to come out and say, like, here's why we hired this coach, and here's explicitly what this coach is bringing. Like, Marin is a good example of this, right? Where like he's coming in to coach Team Liquid. Why the fuck is he coming in to coach Team Liquid? Like, I think getting go ahead.
I was
I'm
say,
not saying
so
it shouldn't be, by the way, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think the reason it works in traditional sports is because you very much see the coach's influence in those timeouts, play calling, just roster decisions, like a lot of that stuff. And like esports doesn't really have that. I mean, like you have on stage and they're like pacing behind the players a little bit, but even then, everyone knows draft is pretty like player specific. You have like in best of series, you sometimes see the back room. But because it's so focused on players, like when you're actually playing the game, I understand why coaches are not much of a focus in this scene, because like it doesn't naturally flow to like the forefront of the viewer's experience the way a traditional sport coach will find themselves front and center of the broadcast for portions of it during critical moments, timeouts, play calls, this kind of stuff. So I just think that pushing coaches hard is, I mean, like I like coaches. I was a coach. I think you should have them on the broadcast. I think you should do a cast with them. Have them, like we did a lot of player casts. Why not have a coach cast? Like I'm not opposed to any of that. But I mean, like in terms of like ham-fisting more of it, I don't think it's something that players want to watch players, or viewers want to watch players. That's what they want.
I want them to do. I want you guys to do a coach cast of their own team, because they can't. They can't do anything anyway, right? So why not?
They can reveal strats, unfortunately.
No. I know. I guess I'm just saying during the matches, it's not like they can affect the their hands are off anyway.
You have nothing you need to be doing.
Yes. So just shove them up there and watch them slowly die inside as their team.
It would be fun to do a single play-by-play and then two coaches of opposing teams and just
Icarus says now they need to watch and take notes for review. I'm sure they never do that after the game. I don't think that coaches are actively taking notes during, like, based off of the cameras. Normally, what they're doing is this.
I mean, if you're any competent coach, it's really not hard to keep track of like the things that happened in the game if you're watching closely. I only ever took notes to make sure I didn't forget them when I later like needed to address it, like in scrims, because you're going to break everything down. But like after a game, it's usually not. You usually don't need them. Maybe some people do, but I don't think it's like critical to be taking notes during the LCS.
Jedi Master says, what is so wrong with them being on comms with the team? Because League of Legends is a game of imperfect information, and adding a sixth person who has additional information is not the play, my friend. Okay. Billabang, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we take our next break for a sponsor shout out?
Shout out David. I actually watch him on TikTok. I know who he is. He's a pretty cool guy, and I've been enjoying his content. So shout out to him. Shout out St. Clair College esports program. Just built a new arena. It's pretty sick. Great education I've got there. And shout out you guys for doing Hotline League for so long. I'll keep watching, and maybe some more hot takes will come up, and I'll come back on. But thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good call.
Yeah, it was good. Quick note, by the way, speaking of David. Last week on the show, when we had Andrew Barton on, I made a pithy remark about how because I said something about how I wanted EG to do kind of like a team update. I think this is what it was. I wanted EG to do a team update video, and he's like, would you sponsor it? I said, maybe, just because I feel like if I want to see content in the LCS, then I have to make it. That was a reference to content about the teams and the players. Okay, David Lynn later on took that quote and tweeted it non-contextually as if to imply that I was saying that nobody else creates content. I was specifically commenting on how teams don't make content. Obviously, there are lots of pundits and folks that make content, so I just want to clarify that based off of the way in which it was conveyed on
That's
Twitter.
Not content. Dom, not content. It's not content.
Anyway.
Any of the writers, Fionn, not content.
Shout out to, Fionn is doing behind the scenes stuff now.
It's not content.
Shout out to Grubhub. They are going to be giving away, I think we have 50 Hextech chests to give away right now, live on the stream. Are we doing it live? Numi, how do we figure this out? Oh, Numi, you're promoting the old code, so that did not work out. Numi, okay, she's fixing it right now. But Numi's going to create a form, or has created a form, wherein you fill it out in the chat, and the first 50 people who fill it out will get a code sent to them with the Hextech chest code, which seems like a crazy way of doing this. But Numi and we had short time to create this and craft this process. So let us know. Give us feedback if we ever have a chance to do more of these Hextech chest giveaways. So if you would like to get a Hextech chest courtesy of Grubhub, we're giving them away right now. And Numi will have the link here in a second for you. But shout out to Grubhub for sponsoring the show. I ordered the Thai food place. I really like the Thai food place that we went to that we ordered from, I should say, for the Dinner With episode that I did with Kobe. And I had that right before the show because it's delicious. So thank you to Grubhub. They've continued to provide delicious food for us and be a great partner. And if you guys get delivery, please try Grubhub. Sometimes I hear my friends say something heretical, naming a competing delivery service, and I scream at them at the top of my lungs.
I throw my chicken nuggies at them, and
what's going on?
Tell my mom to get out of the room.
And there we go. Oh, that's out. The link is up in the Twitch chat. So the first 50 people to fill it out will get a code for a Hextech chest sent to them. I believe the code only works on North American servers. So just to warn you about that. Maybe if you're in a different region, you need to, make an account in North America. But anyway, the first 50 people fill it out. So thank you so much, Grubhub, for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate it. And go get your Hextech chest if you're watching live. And if you're watching not live, then you need to do a better job of watching live, because then you'll get a chance to get one of these Hextech chests. Mark.
We also have one other sponsor for this evening. It's the Ava League preseason tournament taking place this Wednesday.
This is not
December
accurate.
7th.
We are not receiving compensation for this.
Ava League paid me. I don't know. You didn't get compensation?
No.
No, there's no compensation.
We have we need to be clear about this because we have a share of something called share of voice, Mark, which is about how sponsors are conveyed at certain times during the show.
Yeah, I get it. It was a joke. Ovly just wanted to come on and talk about this thing that she's working on, and I didn't see the message until an hour later, and I don't think she's here anymore, and I just want to shout it out as a cool community thing going on Wednesday. You'll probably recognize a lot of names of streamers and pro players taking place in it.
Are they trying to usurp the Name-In tournament that is happening? Because Name-In, I think, is also doing a tournament. Is this like a Panda Global Ludwig thing where there's a war going on between these tournaments?
Sure, I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to get the next person.
Drama.
Shut up, you drama frog.
Mark is off to grab the next caller. Thank you to Pouncing Saying, Darking, and Donut533 for the subs. Really appreciate the subs, folks. That's very generous of you. Could be cool. Numi says she will send out the Hextech chest this week. Oh. What? Why did you screamed when you joined the channel? So what why?
Yeah. I'd scream because I've been here for like 10 seconds. Didn't seem like you knew that we came back. We got a guest or a caller.
Oh, okay. It just was a little disruptive, so I was a little confused. I'm Cayotix is here. Cayotix, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from good old Dallas, Texas.
Dallas, Texas. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I wanted to talk about how 100 Thieves will not be a top 4 team this year, but they will be great for the viewership of the LCS. Though they are both a little bit washed on their return, Doublelift and Bjergsen will bring back an LCS audience that likely hasn't watched in years.
Are Doublelift and Bjergsen washed? Based on what metrics?
I think that the Doublelift admittedly is out of practice. And I think that Bjergsen,
is he?
Calling him washed is a little bit of an overstatement in all honesty, but I believe that he isn't playing as good as he once was, which could be attributed to the conflicts and how they perceive the game by him and Core JJ. But, again, it's all theoretical.
I'll just put it this way. There were a lot of LCS players who were not playing Champions Queue during Worlds whenever the Worlds players were on that server. Doublelift was. So I think there might be some LCS players who are more out of practice than him. But okay, so
I'll also say Tenacity took a spring off in good old Peter school of thinking. So it's not just potentially Doublelift and Bjerg who are washed. Maybe Tenacity's already washed. He did play in summer, don't get me wrong, but he's already taking time out. He's already burning out. That's a meme. If anyone takes that seriously, he was a 6-man in spring.
I think that.
Go ahead.
I think that playing Champions Queue versus playing 8 hours of scrims like almost every day or however long that they're scrimming, I think that you guys said it's like 4 hour, 6 hour blocks, something like that. I think that that's quite a bit more than playing, a couple of Champions Queue games when the availability is there. But I know that he also, even though he was trying to play Champions Queue, I know that because of the priority queue and everything, he wasn't able to play as much.
Yeah, I think it is weird because I have seen this sentiment echoed from other folks that Doublelift and Bjergsen are washed. And I mean, Mark did several, maybe like 70 blame games this year about how Bjergsen was not as bad as the Reddit seemed to be wanting to make him out to be. And I think it is fine to be skeptical of Peter coming back, but we don't have much evidence either way. Like Icarus, for instance, says Doublelift wasn't even performing well 2 years ago. He won the last split he played in. So
I mean, but people talk about him getting like kind of carried by Bjerg across the finish line. Is what they people say because he lost to FBI in the Golden Guardian series, and he was not his greatest version of himself, even in that split that he won.
Well, even more evidence for Bjergsen being a great player. He was able to carry Peter across the finish line. I don't know.
But now he's washed because he couldn't carry Hans. So there you go. Everyone's washed.
I see. It's just about how much you can carry these ADCs. Regardless, I think it is a little early to be saying that players are washed. But I'm sorry, back to your main point. You think that they'll be great for viewership?
Yeah, I think that the team is a great storyline overall. I think that there's already a pretty decent like little fan base developed around like Tenacity and Busio, and I think that Closer will keep a lot of the 100 Thieves fans from previous years, like me included. I'm actually a really big 100 Thieves fan. I'm just very skeptical of this roster because I'm not sure about how people will mesh across the board, although I am excited to see how they'll do. I think that the storyline overall is fantastic, honestly. But either way, I think it is a very, very, very big if about pretty much everyone on the roster. I think there's question marks everywhere.
Okay, so it's interesting because I'm sketched out on both aspects of your take, because I think from the viewership perspective, I have not seen the sort of like big hype and excitement about Peter's return on like the broad level that I expected to, or about like Bjerg and Peter reuniting. And my take is, I think that team will be as hype and exciting as 100 Thieves makes it. As in, they've not been creating very much content this year. They laid off like a bunch of their content team. They made, I think, no content at Worlds. They just didn't do shit. And so hopefully with them getting some very popular players, they will do something. But like, I saw people who were being critical of EG announcing their roster with a JPEG. 100 Thieves has announced their roster on Lena's stream. And with Peter posting a picture of Soren and him together with Soren in a 100 Thieves jersey. Or not jersey, but jacket or whatever. Vest.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, too. In 2020 summer, when they last won the LCS together, viewership on average was 205,000 people. I'm checking my numbers here again. In summer this year, and I don't know if I updated it at the exact end of summer, but it was around 115,000, 120,000, which means 80,000 people have disappeared into the ether, roughly. Not only that, but you also have churn of some degree of those people being new, who just didn't give a shit 2 years ago. So to Travis's point about like how many people are absolutely juiced about it, I will say that the kind of people who would be most juiced about it are also the kind who would probably be least active on things like social media and Reddit, because like the reunion of two of North America's best players, they're probably not the people who are like terminally online like me and Travis and other hardcore LCS fans who are consuming all the content, and we've probably thrown a bit of a wet blanket over the return. So I do think that the reaction when it does happen and they're in the jerseys together and Riot makes their hype piece of these two guys being reignited, and hopefully, for the love of God, 100 Thieves does something to Travis's point. Like that's hopefully when the hype starts, and we'll get a better picture then of how excited people are. On your point about them not being good, I do think it's fair to say that like they're not going to be at that 2020 level, presumably. I don't think either of them are at their peaks of their careers. I defended Bjerg as being fine, but I never made the case that he was like 2015 Bjerg, 2016 Bjerg, like MVP Bjerg. I never considered for a second giving him the MVP in either split, which is kind of what his like he was known for, was being just the perennial MVP candidate. So in that sense, like I think it is actually kind of true that like, if you're just seeing Bjerg and Doublelift, it's not 2016 when they reignited the first time. It's not even fucking 2020 when they reignited the second time. It's 2022. And I think that expectation, I wonder where the average fan, the one who gets hyped in January when they see all these videos, what they're expecting versus like you and me and maybe Travis.
Yeah, I think there's two things here that I want to kind of get your read on, Mark. One, like you're right that we've lost a ton of people. I get the feeling that like we could get those people back with the right marketing push, which the LCS fucking sucks at. Like historically, I mean, we are, just over a month from when presumably the league will start, and we have like no info on even what day of the week this thing is going to be on. And like John Needham in the interview that I did with him talked about how he thought that Riot was not great at sports marketing, right? So like I'm a little worried because I do think like this is an opportunity to bring back some people who are like Double F fans or Double F beer, the Glory Days type thing. But two, especially this one, I want to get your point on. I think you and I and other people have philosophized about and thought a lot about how much the LCS just like went so hard on Doublelift and Peter Peter and Soren for so long, right? Like there's so many videos where they were just there and they did not do a really good job of building stars. So I think there's a kind of a quandary here, right? Of like, is this what we're going back to now? I'm not even saying we shouldn't, because I do think like it would be a pity if they didn't make a big deal about this. But there's an irony now that like years after the fact that we were like, oh yeah, we really fucked up by leaning so much on Bjerg and Doublelift for so long and not building up new folks. We're like, you know how we should really kick off the start of 23 season? Promoting Doublelift and Bjergsen,
We just did LCS 10. We put the past behind us into the future with Doublelift and Bjerg. Who the fuck are Harry and Ayla and Jan? I have no idea. One of the best academy teams ever.
But you know what I mean? Like what?
Debuting in the LCS? Yeah, no, I agree. I'm agreeing with your point that like it is funny that like it is one of the biggest storylines, so you have to cover it, but it's also not really what you like for the long-term health of the esport feel like you maybe should be doing.
I mean, the irony of us, it's, I don't know what you do for that. I don't know if you like include them in the opening video. Cause like what I remember last year's video was like the handoff, right? Where you had,
they shatter the glass or something. And
you had Danny
going
looking at like Doublelift stuff or whatever. And like, obviously, it's not anyone's fault that like Danny is not in, it's a complicated situation.
No.
But you will have
Danny back for Doublelift. No.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, right? Like how poorly that aged, that video, because now Danny's not here and you have Doublelift instead. And like, again, I think it is good for the league that Doublelift is playing in it. I'd rather have him play in it, especially at this time, than not. But like, man, what a fucked up situation we find ourselves in, right?
Yeah, in terms of a marketing angle, like what LCS chooses to be its like driving story is a tough choice. Like I think it's very easy to show a lot of the younger, newer teams that look fresh and stuff, and then kind of do them as like a final boss at the end of a video kind of thing, where they have all like however many trophies they have behind them, 11, 13. I don't even know what it is, like you could do that pretty easily and give your nod to them without making them the focus of the video and focus more on TL, Fly, I don't know, like, but in EG players, I don't know. It is a weird one. I forget what your first point was. Just I
just don't know if they're going to bring the viewership. I mean, we kind of started.
I think it'll help. I mean, viewership always goes up from summer to spring the next year, pretty much. Except for,
and I think my first point was about like the marketing angle. Like we can recapture some of those viewers if they put the marketing out there. I'm just skeptical of LCS and teams doing marketing. Okay. Yeah. Cayotix, thank you so much. I think this sparked a really fun, interesting conversation. So thank you for the call. Anything that you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Shout out to you and Mark, as always. You guys make my drives to school and times doing homework more entertaining.
Thank you.
Grubhub and Alienware for sponsoring, and also NAMen with the big tournament coming up. I hope that a lot of the community here has been entered in. It seems like it'll be a really fun time.
Very good. Did you enter?
I did.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
all right, you'll have a good night.
Yeah.
See you.
All right. Thank you to Boba Cola for the 63 months. Wow. We're getting up there. Thank you to everybody who subbed. If you haven't subbed yet, you can probably sub for free if you have Prime. Move your cursor over the screen. You'll see a little crown pop up. It'll let you know if you have a sub that's available for the thing.
We're going to end with your favorite take of the night. You ready?
Yeah. TheCreature is here. TheCreature, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from South Carolina.
South Carolina, who I think recently the Democratic National Committee decided to make that the first stop in the primaries. Anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that teams should focus less on content, not more.
All right, that's the show, everybody. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Mark, you have any shout outs? Did you plug? No. What? Okay. Why are you bringing this curse take to me?
So I think we ask a lot of the players, and I
oh my god
hate to sit here and see that the players are told that they have no work ethic and they do poor at Worlds and internationally. And also, we want you to be a dancing monkey for us and have YouTube videos at our disposal when the teams all have content creators. Like, why would Team Liquid want Core JJ to do a video when they're paying Broxa and Bwipo to be on?
Because they want people to root for Core JJ whenever he plays games.
I think this is a good take. Creature, do you also think that like maybe they do too much work chewing their own food? Should we get baby food for them?
I just feel like the players should be able to focus on being players first and not entertainment.
I will agree. Players.
How
first.
is that doing for us, Creature? So this has been happening for a while, right? Where we've asked players to do less and less content, and to appear in less and less content, and quote unquote to focus more on being players first. Are we performing better at Worlds than we did before?
I'm not saying that we're doing good right now. I just feel like
viewership up?
But I don't think that's on the players necessarily.
I would put it
be good. They have to be good to draw in the viewership, and if they're focused on doing side project contents and stuff. And another aspect of it is a recent thing has been player burnout, and I can't imagine doing a full day of scrims and then having to film a video afterwards. I just don't see how more content is a good thing for the scene. I don't think a casual
You're not sure how more content is a good thing for the scene? My man, we sent our teams to Worlds and did basically jack shit content around them. They came back going 1-5 across the board, and everybody had nothing that they could actually have as sort of like an explanation or justification or humanization at all of these players, and they just got fucking flamed into the ground for showing up and like embarrassing us on the stage. And when you have no content that is there to actually like humanize these players, make them relatable, let people see that they actually give a shit when they go 1-5, then you have nothing other than like frustration at the fact that you've watched these guys lose so much.
I'm not saying do zero content. I just don't think that it needs to be.
I mean, you said do less content, and we're already doing zero content, so I don't even know how we could do less than zero.
Okay, so maybe not less.
You could issue takedowns. You could issue takedowns to do less content to stop other people from making content too.
I just don't.
I'm so good at finding solutions. You ask a question, I give you an answer.
I don't I hope. Sorry, Creature. I'm trying not to be too upset. I hope you know that this was going to be a tough subject for me. But like,
I knew what I was walking into.
Okay, good. I just could not disagree more. So like Khan is in the chat, I think, and Khan, anytime anybody anywhere talks about Worlds, he goes in the comments and is like, we really got to stop talking about Worlds, everybody. I don't think that we should give up on competition like he and some other folks do. I think it is important to care and to try, but I also think that we are at a point where we are losing like at a certain point in time, we're going to bleed out so much that we can't be alive any longer. From a viewership perspective, right? Where we cannot afford, like organizations. I mean, I think some organizations have already started to check out because they don't feel like they are getting the returns that they need on the investment that they are making. And when you start to have that, you are decreasing your your competitive capabilities because you are going to end up like I've heard a rumor TSM's going to have very limited coaching staff this year, right? And clearly they've pulled back on their investment on their roster than they have previously, or than they had in previous years. And you can argue whether or not they were over investing. I don't know, but like the even if you are a fan of competition, you should want content to be happening, because that is the method by which this league will sustain itself and by which the teams can continue to invest into support staff and developing stuff. I mean, we had Andrew Barton on last week. He talked about how he's going to try to pull more Fortnite players into League of Legends rather than having like an amateur team. You know, I wasn't going to call him out in that moment, and like it's probably not his decision, but like that's not, to me, like a good sign. Like teams seem to across the board be pulling back. Maybe FlyQuest is the exception. And I think, again, a lot of this is because viewership is suffering and monetization is suffering. And I think there's a lot of different factors in that, but it is hurt additionally by the lack of content and engagement and reasons to give a shit about these players that we have in the league. And I think asking them to do as much content as they're doing right now, which is incredibly limited, or asking them to do less, I think is tough. Now, to your point, caller, I think I think what you should say, like a more compelling version of your argument is, if we are going to ask players to do more content, we should be smart about the types of content we ask them to do and make sure it is compelling, because oftentimes players sit in content shoots or something like that, and the content ends up being boring or nobody's watching it, et cetera, et cetera. That's like a better thing to solve for, I think, than like saying like we shouldn't ask them to do as much or to do more. Mark, you wanted to get in?
Yeah, let me tag in real quick. I think a couple things, Creature, I do agree with. I think the players should always be players first. I don't think the ratio of hours spent on playing and practicing and that kind of stuff is anywhere close, or the other way around. The amount of content they're doing is not anywhere close to the amount of hours they spend playing the game and stuff. So it's not like they're even close to not making players number one. I agree that players should never be doing more content than they are playing the game, unless it's like the off season or something, and they are literally streaming all their gameplay and then making content on top of it. That's probably the only time I would say that you should be making more content than playing. And even then, I don't even know if that's true. So like the players are players number one. But the reason that other content creators and stuff don't help necessarily build identity of the brand is a lot of the stuff that Travis talked about, which is the importance of humanizing these people that you're watching on the Rift. Yes, dominance and success, of course, breed interest, but those are not assurance. Like you can't assuredly do well at Worlds. You can't win all the time. And that's also true domestically. And so there is an importance of finding other ways to get people to care about your teams and your players. And that's where content comes in. And exactly how you make that content, you can, like Travis said, make it more or less of a burden. I think there's different types of content that you can debate what's good and what's not. Like it would be fun to see people try more things. Like, what if a team just did a weekly podcast where they got their players in a room, all 5 of them, and they just shot the shit about something, you know, like, I don't know, hour-long discussion on Monday. I think there's a lot of ideas I think people should try. And I'm more interested in that than pulling back. It's like finding what is going to resonate with fans and get a lot of attention.
So when I'm talking about pulling back, like I said, I mainly just mean the players. Like I could be totally wrong, but I don't think somebody is like casually scrolling through YouTube and comes across TSM Legends and starts watching LCS. I think teams would benefit from having their designated creators to draw in the casual fans and then do something like you're talking about. Like once you are drawn in by the brand, you come across TSM and then you see their league team and maybe that grabs your interest and you start watching that. And then they can still have content like Legends or a podcast or something to humanize the players. I mean, I don't know what their balance is between playing and doing content. You guys would know that much better than me. But it just feels like I keep hearing teams talking about we want to do more content, we want to do more content, and it just feels like the wrong direction when
where
we're not
are you hearing
doing
that?
well.
Because quite frankly, I wish I was hearing that.
I mean, just in general, I guess it's probably just hearing you talking about it, teams doing content and stuff.
Yeah, I'm saying I want teams to do more content. The teams seem to just be like, LOL, here's a JPEG.
I mean,
like,
Travis and I don't know when we last covered it, but like I sent Travis a bunch of links to team YouTube channels and how most of them were dead, or what they did was they nuked the League of Legends shit off their popular channel and broke it off into some side channel that no one watched. Like they would have like 400,000 subs somewhere, and then they would make like a league channel that has like 20K, and it's like, what the fuck? And then their main channel would die. Like there's just a bunch of like mismanagement of YouTube channels.
Like here,
we have a lot.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say there's like a lot of things you can get into. I don't want to like blow this topic up forever, but like there's a lot of things that I feel, and even on like just the player side, like people in chat right now are debating whether you can be popular without being successful. You can debate exactly how successful Old Curse and Old Dignitas were compared to CLG and TSM at that time period. I would argue they were significantly less successful in tournaments. They were good, but not like winning a ton. And they had a lot of really fucking popular players like Cutie Pie, Scara, Voyboy, St. Vicious. Like back in the day, those players got tons of views and made a lot of money and stuff because they invested in their own personal streams. And I think sometimes we say teams should make more content, but honestly, there's probably a lot of content that's not going to do well because people don't care about these players yet, because the players haven't built their brands at all on a personal level. And it's this like catch-22 a little bit of like making content with people that people don't care about.
There's two things. So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the final thing is just like there are problems that need to get solved, and I don't think just more is better. And I'll give Creature that. I don't think just throwing everything at a wall, even though I was just advocating a little bit. I don't quite think like just blindly doing more shit with players is the right answer necessarily.
I also think because this came up in the FlightQuest call earlier, where it was like, oh, they might get popular if they start winning. No, probably not. Like unless they're doing enough to make like. There's this weird kind of thing of like, oh, no one will care about you unless you win. And to some extent, I can kind of understand where that comes from, where it is harder. There is more inertia in pulling fans to you if you are not winning. However, not to give him more TikTok response content, but David Chisholm, he tweeted on November 29th the screenshot of people on Reddit not remembering that 100T ran the same roster for like a year and a half. And he wrote like the sad reality of 100T, 3 finals in a row, and people can't even remember. Definitely a little bigger about it. I think he said bitter about it but I get it. And like people didn't give a shit about that 100T team. It was like David and 3 people, somebody from Name N, I think. And like it's and that again, that team won a finals. And admittedly, it was like a COVID finals. But then they made it to finals 2 more times. You would think that like by the philosophy of like just win 5-head, like, or make it to finals, or like find success, that like this team would become fairly popular. But it didn't. And I think part of that is because of just like a lack of personality and content that we saw from the team. And
yeah.
I
100% agree with that. It's funny that you mentioned 100 Thieves because at the exact same time I pulled up FBI's Twitter, and like I actually love FBI, so like I hope if this doesn't come across as shade, but he's only got 20K followers. I don't feel like he's done a great job of branding himself or his identity or anything like that. He won 1 title, like Travis said, had some pretty good showings against Doublelift. He has made multiple finals in a row. Berserker has 34K followers after a year and one title. So like, and Berserker, I think, in the interviews that he's done, in the content pieces he's done, has done a better job of showcasing his personality, being very active on Twitter, or relatively active on Twitter. FBI is notoriously inactive on Twitter.
I mean, didn't you make the point last week,
followers,
Mark, like, of the Philip thing? Or maybe that was Emily. Like everybody, like whenever Philip didn't find a spot, people on Reddit actually were like, oh no. And it was mostly because of the fucking rent a girlfriend meme from like yeah. It's crazy what a little bit of content can do. Now it has to be good content, which I think like you can't just say do content teams and then when they do something very boring that is like
FBI, be funnier interviews, forehead.
Or like
okay, that's
another thing is you have a lot of the sales team just coming up with concepts for these videos, and so they just become like a blatant like way to integrate the sponsor rather than coming up with the content and sponsoring or integrating a sponsor after. But like Yeah, you can do a lot. Like FBI, I think did as much as he doesn't have much of a Twitter follower. Like people talk about his like stupid video he did with me where he kept saying Canada over and over again for all the different countries or whatever. Like at least it sparks discussion. So content important, content fucking important. I don't know why we're still having this conversation, Creature. You and others seem to disagree with me, but content fucking important.
I'm not saying content isn't important, but I just feel like the teams are failing their players in that aspect. It shouldn't be on the... I mean, the players have to make you care about them, but...
When I talk to the teams about, like, whenever I've flamed the teams for this, people on the teams have gotten angry with me by being like, the players won't do anything. Now, I think that's a bit of a cop-out because it's like you fucking pay them. Like, you can fine them or you can put stuff in their contracts about it or whatever, but, like...
It needs to be a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think the teams could do a better job of convincing the players it's worth their time, right? Could do a better job of that, et cetera, et cetera. But like, I do think it goes both ways. And quite frankly, like Vulcan has become kind of not like the most popular player, but like a bit of a fan favorite because on his own he has done content like on Twitter and stuff. Not everybody needs to be coming up with memes and all that stuff, but like, you can like a little bit of content and a little bit of care goes a long way.
I don't disagree with that. I just don't feel like it shouldn't be entirely on the players to make it happen.
I agree. Teams should make them do it. I think it is disappointing how difficult it is to get players to come on this show. And like, I think people will dismiss that statement by being like, oh, Travis just wants... But like players don't do a lot of these things. And I used to be able to do State of the League. Obviously times are a little different, but like I think it is not a coincidence that the players and the league were way more popular at a time when there was way more content around the players.
Imagine this show with 2 players and we're shooting the shit. It's so much better than Travis and I rambling.
Dominic says from TSM, next year I'll get you more players. Okay, there's step 1. Thank you, Dominic.
Boom.
All right. Thank you, Creature, for the call. Sorry if I got... normally Mark gets more hostile with the callers. It was my turn to get hostile with you, but I hope we're still friends.
No hard feelings.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Anything you want to shout out?
Honestly, just shout out to you guys for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And next time you come on, I will not yell at you so much. Goodbye.
Dominic said he sent 2 last year, Seoul and Spica, right? Is that more than most teams sent us over an entire year?
Yeah, I need to look at who we had. Quite frankly, there are some that I don't... I mean, Revenge was on the show like multiple times. So,
but like that's not like an Immortals dub. That's like Revenge understanding the importance. And same kind of like Vulcan's come on a couple times. We have Palafox, Dokla.
Yeah, CLG actually we had a couple people on.
They were pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to break that out and see exactly how much.
I mean, I do think the idea of having 2 players on from the same team could be fun, like a bot lane or something. Maybe we should try to make that a bigger goal. It's not, maybe it's I will take some blame as well. I think we can all share some blame for not doing enough with the players and stuff. I could do more.
Sometimes you and I are just fucking lazy. Let's say what it is. We don't want to reach out. We don't want to convince them.
Yes.
We don't have we don't know them super well, so we feel a little like I admit I feel awkward.
Yes.
Like
I tried to do a big dinner with a player this offseason and was told that they didn't want to do it. And so like this stuff happens. I'll tell you about it later, Mark. But yeah.
And even beyond like big things, like I'm just like I'm not a very social person, honestly. Like I'm 31. These kids are 18, 19. I don't know what to say to them. I don't know how to talk to them. I just ignore them. I walk the other way. We walk down the hallway at the same time. I have to turn around and go do something over there.
That's because you don't got that Riz, Mark. Okay. I've been learning how to talk to them. Yeah. It's pretty good.
I'm outdated now, but I had in one of my casts if I was gonna cast Spica and he was gonna do something really good, I wanted to just say like a couple full sentences in straight Zoomer talk.
Yeah, I've been learning a little bit about it. I'm entering my villain era, I think. You know what I mean?
I'll look up a bunch. If I ever have a cast with a Zoomer or like casting a Zoomer, I'll make sure I read up again to drop some.
Oh man, I've learned so many words and I can't remember all of them now.
That's what being a boomer is, because you don't actually use them or know them.
Right.
It's like it's knowledge that you don't have a mastery of. You've been
right
exposed
because you're not
to it,
using them in day to day. Like this is why I'm trying to talk to the name N people a little bit more, because it's like learning any language where you have to immerse yourself in the culture. Like that's the best way to like learn language.
It's so true, because when I got into like the Genshin side, like my Twitch meme usage skyrocketed from talking to 1010 and Jeff.
Yeah,
like he is living Twitch chat 1010, and so like Sag, Madge, Glad, like all that stuff, wokage, wankage, like all the things I started saying on broadcast were 100% because I started talking to 1010.
Yeah. Next year, I'm going to slay my Zoomer era.
Shut up.
My Zoomer era. I'm going to eat and leave no crumbs, Mark. Okay? That's what I'm going to do.
Shut your mouth. You're gonna end this goddamn podcast and let me go. That's what you're going to do.
All right.
There's no hotline life because Travis was clearly being a salty little baby about it, and I decided we'd take a couple more calls. Did
this work out though? I thought this was a good episode. You kept saying there's going to be nothing to talk about. I thought we had really great this is one of the better ones in a while.
I was bored for 2 hours straight, and I expect every single person who listened was too.
I don't fucking believe that.
We'll do Hotline Life next week, and we'll give it the hour it deserves. You weren't going to cram me into like 30 minutes.
Mark is definitely the op.
Are we done here?
It means opposition. All right. Mark, what do you want to shout out and plug? What do you want to promote?
Nothing. I have not. I might make a blame game this week. I might just get lazy. How many do I owe you for the year?
50.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. But I think you started doing them in February, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe
the very says 10 months ago.
The very end of January.
I think it might have been end of January. It says currently 10 months ago when I went back to episode 1.
Okay,
so it's
then
not.
It doesn't end by it's not the end of the year. It's like January.
Okay.
So you're good.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Nothing else?
No.
All right, everybody. Stick around because you can all watch the first time that I've watched this the next episode of Surprise Test, featuring notable individuals such as Porter Robinson and Billy and Dom and others. That is not I Will Dominate. It is a Hobbit. So we'll put that on, and maybe I will watch a bounty if we can keep viewership up. It's been a bit of a lower viewership episode because of reasons, but if you stick around through this bounty, I will show you this next episode of Surprise Test. Anyway, that's it. Stick around, everybody, for that. Goodbye, Mark Zimmerman. See ya. All right. Where are we?
I'm leaving. Goodbye.
Oh, I know. I thought you already left. Why are you still here?
No, well, let's hang out tomorrow afternoon, evening.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the show's still going. Goodbye.